What is going on, you guys, and welcome back to the Enjoy the Ride podcast. I'm beyond excited about today's episode as I interviewed my long-term client, Lauren O'Neill, on her journey from postpartum to bikini champion. This is going to be a great one, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'm beyond excited to have Lauren on here today. We're doing a little bit of a member interview, as you guys saw from my post this morning. And Lauren, I will say, I've been working with her since 2021. Which is absolutely crazy to think about that it's been that long since you've been on Team MakeWaves because you worked with Taylor, for the first few stages. Then you, of course, came to myself when it came to the time to, do the bikini competition. But I'm just beyond excited to have Lauren on here today because she's literally been through, I would say, every single stage that you possibly can go through when it comes to a weight loss journey. Good and bad. Good and bad.
Yes.
So I really, again, just want her to just kind of take the floor today to go over just her entire journey up until this point. Just because I know there's going to be so many of you in the group that can relate to this and just kind of find motivation from this and value in this. And I will say this too, Lauren is one of the nicest people that I know. So if you guys have any questions after the interview today, please, of course, reach out to her. I know she's going to be more than happy to help out in any way that she possibly can. So Lauren, without further ado, introduce yourself. Let's get this going.
So my name's Lauren. I'm 42 years old. I live in New Jersey. I'm married. I have two young children. One just turned 3 years old. The other one is turning 6 in April. I'm a speech pathologist part-time, so I work 3 days a week outside of the house. What else? I love the beach. If you didn't catch the beginning part of it. Yeah, been with the team for the last 2 years, but I've always been super into fitness and eating healthy, and things have always just been up and down for me. So this is probably the longest I've ever been consistent with anything in my life.
Yeah, no, and it's amazing, right? And like I said, you've been on the team for quite some time, but like even before that, like I just want to kind of go into the whole journey. So I know when you reached out, you were kind of moving forward with 75 hard because I think you joined during a holiday challenge that we hosted.
Yep.
And during that time, you were still doing 75 hard. So you want to kind of talk about like what got you on 75 hard to start, and then we can kind of transition about like you joining the team and kind of moving forward with us.
Yeah, so so Victoria's my youngest. She just turned 3. So at the time when I started 75 hard, I think she was about like 5 or 6 months old. And I was like kind of in a rut. I needed something to do to get this baby weight off. And I always like need these crazy challenges to like kind of push me. So I decided with a girl that I had met on Instagram that we were going to do 75 hard together. So we started in July and we ended in October. And we kind of like went through the whole thing and just like would check in with each other. And when 75 hard was over, same thing. I was like, all right, now what do I have to look forward to? Like I needed something to challenge myself again. And somehow I got connected with Matt or Taylor, who reached out first, but I got connected with you guys like through Facebook, I think. And then I saw that you guys were doing the holiday challenge. So I was like, oh, perfect. Another challenge for me to do. And so I did the challenge and I won. And then after that, I signed up for coaching. And then in the back of my mind, I always knew that I wanted to do a bikini competition, but I like didn't know what was really involved. Like I had followed people on Instagram, but I was just like, I just want that physique. I want to be disciplined like that. I work out so hard, but I wasn't showing any results from it. So when I think Taylor and I talked after the challenge, I had told her like, that's like really my long-term goal was to do a bikini competition.
Yeah.
And so we kind of like took me from 75 hard, kind of like started doing like a reverse dieting, got me back on track with that, working out less because I was working out a lot more than I had been. So like my mindset was like, yes, let's go all in. Let's do as much as I possibly can. And they were like, whoa, like take a step back. Like you don't need to be doing all this. And in my head, I didn't know at the time, like that's just what I was used to. So we took a step back and I started seeing results pretty quickly. And then, things were up and down for a while. Matt knows I have like terrible digestion issues, and that sometimes was the challenge for me. But like we got over it. And then I guess in January of last year, we decided, all right, it's time. Let's start doing your prep. And then we started doing the prep for the competition.
Yeah, no, we never looked back. We never looked back, which is an awesome thing. But I do want to rewind this a little bit. Did you enjoy 75 hard? Because here's the thing, I have mixed, and Taylor too, because I know that she was working with you first. We have mixed views about 75 hard. So did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it because it was something. There were moments that I was like, what am I doing? We went on vacation with the kids and I still
Oh my gosh.
did. Yes. So
I did not
there
know
were
that.
yeah, there were moments that I was like, yes, I love this. Like I'm feeling so much better. My mental status was a lot better. But it was something that when I came off of it, it was like during it, it was like such a high. And then when I came off of it, it was like super low. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, what I have nothing. Like, I don't know what to do now. Like, do I still keep doing this? I had done this for 75 days. Like, it was definitely a huge mental shift for me. So that was the hardest part, was coming off of it, I think. But
Yeah.
during it, I did enjoy the structure. Like, I'm a
Yeah.
very structured, so I needed that.
Yeah. No, and I could see that firsthand too. Like I feel like, and again, maybe it was just like a blessing of timing that you kind of got off of that and then found the holiday challenge that we were hosting and so forth. Because, we still provided you that structure, which was great with the workouts and the diet and so forth. But it's funny just because again, like 75 hard, it was such a crazy thing that people were doing, and it's still very popular now. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things that you and I've talked about before too. Like I just never thought it was the most sustainable thing. And like that was a big thing for you too, Lauren. We're like, when you first worked with us, I remember Taylor and I were kind of like going over your whole profile, and we're like, she's gonna hate us because we're gonna have her do less in the gym and we're gonna start increasing her calories. Just because a lot of times when people do, as you know, 75 hard, they're just doing too much that their body just can't handle it and they're eating too little. And again, it's just not putting them in the best spot to continue to see that success once they wrap up the 75 days. But the beautiful thing is, like, you trusted us since day one, which was an absolute blessing. I know you weren't super like fond of the idea of doing less and eating more, but it worked out. It
It
really
did
did
work.
work out.
Yeah.
But like Lauren mentioned, she's literally been from like postpartum to a 75 hard challenge to a reverse diet to then going back into a bikini competition. I'll never forget that too, the open office hours that we were hosting that one day and you popped on the Zoom and you're like, hey, I think I'm ready to do this. And I'm like, oh boy, like it's go time. And then we took you through a whole nother reverse diet to get
Yeah.
ready for that too. So
Yep.
you've been through a lot of stages of really increasing calories and embrace being
Yep.
comfortable. And that's what I want to kind of talk about next is like you kind of mentioned too, like you've been through challenges, like right now, and even in the past too, kind of going through some digestion related challenges. You've been through challenges of being uncomfortable with, us forcing more food on your plate and just kind of, again, really embracing the reverse diet, which so many people are scared of because, they always associate more calories, to more weight gain and so forth. But I just want to hear from you. And again, I feel like this is a part that a lot of people can find value in is like what challenges, it doesn't have to be all of them, but I would say like what were the big challenges that you faced throughout your journey and like how did you overcome those?
I would say the biggest one was my scheduling. I have two little kids. So like their schedules were crazy. They were involved in extracurricular activities like gymnastics and dance and soccer and school. And then I work 3 days a week. So trying to manage my schedule with, okay, now I have to prep all my food. I have to get these workouts in. Like that, I think in the beginning was hard, but like because I had done 75 hard in the summer, I was like, okay, I know how to structure some of these things. And again, I'm a very like structured person. So I had to schedule things on the calendar or like put reminders in my phone. I knew that like on the weekend that I was picking like 2 hours to myself just to like prep my food and cook. And I still do all of these things. So like what I was doing 2 years ago, I'm still doing now. But I think that just like when the schedules would change and me trying to be flexible was the hardest thing for me
Yeah.
because I'm not always a flexible person. So I was like, okay, if, I had a lot of sleeping issues sometimes with Victoria in the middle of the night would wake up for 2 hours and I would be in the gym by 4 a.m. And if she's up in the middle of the night, I was like, oh, how am I getting my gym in? I can't go to the gym at 4 a.m. I'm exhausted because I was up with her for 2 hours. So I have to change my workout schedule around. And so just being like flexible for me, I think was a challenge to know like, it's okay. You're going to get it done. Like whether or not I got it done at 4 a.m. or 7 p.m., I was always going to get it done. Like
Yeah.
that wasn't a mind, and I would say that like my husband was super supportive. Like, okay, if you didn't go to the gym in the morning, it's fine. You can go later tonight when they're in bed. And then like, I think also when family parties or any parties, or like we had a wedding during my prep, um, with me. And so like kind of getting out of the idea, like people are going to talk no matter what, whether you're too heavy, too skinny, too fit, too healthy, you know, whatever it is, people are going to say what they want to say. And
Yeah.
so like in my mind, I was like, whatever, this is what I'm doing. Like, this is my life. I'm going to bring my food with me. If you have a problem with it, that's your problem, you
Yeah.
know? So, you know, at the wedding, I told it was my cousin's wedding. So it was a little bit easier because, you know, it was a family member and they all knew what I was doing. And so I was very vocal about it. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to bring my food to your wedding and you don't have to, you know, pay for my food if you, you know, I'm just going to bring it and I'm going to eat in the car. Or I'll bring it in the place where we're going, you know, whatever it is. But like knowing like it doesn't matter what other people think of you as long as you're happy in what journey you're doing, that's all that matters. Like who cares what other people think, you know, because this is your journey, not theirs.
No, I love that. And it's funny too, because I've had those tough conversations with family members, my friends too, just because it just blows my mind that people will judge you for trying to live like a healthier lifestyle. Like you mentioned, is do you as you kind of go about your own pursuit. So I think that's a very, very valuable point that you brought up. And with that too, Lauren, like, did you ever struggle with motivation? Like, because I always like look back to like just members in the Facebook group. Like when, you know, as you know, with this process, like when someone joins the Facebook group, it's like, all right, what do you struggle with? Motivation, consistency, and the weekends are the top three. So like, have you ever struggled with any of those?
I wouldn't say my motivation was never an issue for me because when I like again, you know, Matt, I'm like all or none. So if I'm all in, like, and if I'm out, I'm out. But in terms of motivation, like, yeah, there were days I was tired and I like was like, I don't feel like going to the gym, or like I would come home for my second workout during prep and I'd be like, I really don't feel like going, but I have to go. And it just really, it wasn't about motivation. It was just discipline. Like this was my job, right? For 6 months during prep, I was like, this is my job. This is what I'm going to do. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking like, my kids are watching, you know, I have to get on stage in front of all of these people with on like there is no lack of motivation here. Like I have to do this because I already committed to it. So
Yeah.
there was no I was failing. Like again, like that all or none mindset sometimes is good, sometimes it's not great. But it really was just about discipline. Like this was my job. Like I'm disciplined, this is what I'm doing, and there's no teetering on it, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, I think that ties hand in hand to the consistency because you were extremely consistent the entire time throughout too. And I just think, again, like you mentioned, having like that clear goal, right? Of like, all right, like my daughters are watching. I have a show date picked out that I'm going to be stepping up on stage. I just feel like it makes it easier to, of course, have that discipline, motivation, consistency, you know, all
Yeah.
that fun stuff, which again, which is great. But I will say, Lauren, like that part of your journey is going to be way different than someone else's part of their journey, right? Just because like for what we were doing back then, it was just so easy to be motivated to work towards that goal. But let's talk about like now a little bit too. Now that the show's behind us, like is that motivation still there? Like how are you feeling about that?
So that I was actually just going to say that. So yeah, my motivation now, there is a good group of us that goes at the same time every morning. So we're like the morning crew. So we go from like 4 to 5 a.m. So if somebody's not there, somebody in the group is texting like, hey, you okay? Where are you?
That's
What are you
awesome.
doing? Yeah. So like we're really close. I mean, I've been working out with these people for literally the last year and a half now, like since the beginning of last September. So you know, we're like look out for each other. And so like that's my motivation. So it's like if they know I'm not going to be there, they're like, hey, where are you going? Like,
Yeah.
or you know, I'm feeling tired or something happened or someone's sick at the house. I'm like, hey, like, sorry to disappoint you guys. Like, I'm not coming. But like, I always feel like when I'm at the gym, you know, we're there for each other. Like, we work out together and then, you know, we do our cardio together and we're talking. And it's like, that's my motivation is like, I know that people are there and like, I don't know if they like look, rely on me, but I rely on them too. You
Yeah.
know, it's
And
like,
I'm sure they do.
you know,
Yeah, no, I love that. And I like where this is going too, Lauren, because like a big part of like, all right, like these are the challenges you're going to face, but like, these are also the ways to kind of overcome those challenges. And like you mentioned, like, and again, like I wasn't even going to go into this in this conversation, but like I feel like we have to kind of move into this now. But like it sounds like from what you just kind of mentioned to me, having a strong support system is huge. You
yes.
100% can back that up with like the morning gym crowd. So like that's always something that we suggest to you guys too is like just try as best you can to have a support system, whether it be like relying on the Facebook group, you know, joining, you know, our team, just being able to, of course, like have myself and Taylor and like the other coaching, the other clients up behind you as well, I feel like is helpful at times. You know, family, I would say also like sometimes in like the workplace, they do like challenges there. So if you can just get a solid support system, like Lauren kind of mentioned, you know, for her, it's her morning gym crowd. Like that's awesome. But also with that too, like you kind of touched upon like planning and prioritizing what you got to get done for someone like yourself that's super structured. Like I feel like that was a total game changer for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm like better when I'm busier, which is crazy.
I was like, I don't hear that often.
Yeah, I'm better when I'm busier. When I don't have a lot to do, that's when I start to feel like, oh, I don't feel like doing this right now. But if I know like I have so much to do, I have to get this in, like I'm gonna do it, you know?
No, no, I love that. Is there anything else you would add to that? Like, you know, you always seem to preach like success leaves clues. So is like anything else that you would maybe add to that besides like support group, besides, you know, planning ahead of time and like maybe having like that super detailed kind of clear goal?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think too, like in terms of like advice for others that are starting out, you know, you have to be patient. Like before I met you guys, I was all about the quick fixes, like I did keto. I did every diet under the sun. And I was like, why is nothing working? Or I'd lose 20 pounds, I'd gain 20 pounds. And I was constantly losing and gaining. And my work ethic showed nothing on my body. It was like, so I was working so hard and I felt like I wasn't showing that at all. And so I think you have to trust the process, be patient, you know, don't fall into these schemes like lose weight fast or try this drink or that. And I think also like asking help from someone who's already gone through it. So like, you know, I went from having a baby, a newborn at home and, you know, going through all of this. And, you know, I went from, you know, this image in my mind that I wanted to be at. And then I actually did it and I was like, okay, you know, like I didn't know anyone who really had gone through a competition before except you and Taylor. So, you know, I went to the experts for it. I went for help. So like I always say like coaches always need coaching, right? You always have, like someone's going to help you. So like if I knew that you went through it, then I'm like, I'm going to trust you more because you've done it already. So I'm like, okay, now I can trust you. So like find that person that's already gone through that. Like if your goal is to powerlift, find someone who powerlifts. If your goal is to lose 20 pounds, find someone who's done that already in a healthy way,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, you trust. Also, like acting like the person you want to be. So, like, if you want to be a healthy person, you have to act in that way.
Yeah.
Like, start those actions to get you to that point. You know, like if you want to be a healthy person, you're not going to sit on the couch for 2-3 hours watching TV. You're going to be that active person, you know, going for walks, you know, like cleaning around your house, um, going through the supermarket and picking out healthier food. So I think like if you think in your mind, like this is what my healthy self would be like, then you're going to start acting like that person, you know?
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's funny too, because like that's one of the core values, like for us on the team is like you got to walk the walk. You know, for like
Right.
myself and like all the other assistant coaches that like we're bringing on in the future is like, all right, you got to walk the walk. Just because like you mentioned, like if we can't connect to you guys on that personal level of like, you know, being through that process at one point or another, I just feel like we're doing you guys a huge disservice. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we of course could, you know, be of that to you guys, which is awesome. So
Yeah, for sure.
and
Hmm.
that's amazing to hear. And kind of again, going into like the next topic, like you mentioned, you have a background of just doing different kind of dieting methods and so forth. But I just wanted to kind of touch upon like just your experience, like working with us with like the diet structure that we're able to kind of give you and just that flexibility. And again, I know with you, we had to kind of be more mindful with the digestive side of things. But I just want to, of course, like just kind of let you talk about that and also kind of go into the workout side of things as well.
Yeah. So I had, like I said, I tried everything. I tried keto. I tried carnivore, which is nothing but meat. I've tried low carb. I kind of loosely tried macros, but like didn't really know what my macros should be.
Mhm.
So like kind of guesstimating, like this is what I should follow. But I feel like I've tried everything. I did Weight Watchers like years ago. I did everything. So when I came to you, I think I had just kind of come off of keto slash low carb.
Yep.
And you guys were like, okay, we're going to introduce all these carbs to you. And I was like, oh my God, I can't handle this. But I trusted it, you know? So now with my digestion stuff, and I'll kind of touch on that for like 2 seconds, but basically a lot of processed foods causes me to have significant bloating. And if I eat things that are processed or dairy or sometimes even gluten, I'm still trying to figure it out a little bit, but I get significant bloating. So when I was going through my prep, switched to nothing processed, all whole food, and then, obviously macro based. So I was counting calories, counting protein, fat, carbs. And so now we're still doing the same thing, all whole foods, macro based.
That's perfect. So I was gonna say that I feel like, and again, you know how I feel about like Weight Watchers and ketos and so forth. And again,
Yeah.
I always feel like just a macro-based diet is always the most successful, just because it's the most sustainable. It's going to be the most built around your lifestyle. So I just
Yeah.
find so much value in that. Would you kind of say the same? Like, has this been the easiest approach for you to follow so far?
Yes, for sure. Like for me, I'm doing whole foods. Like you can fit any food you want into your macros. It's really just what you want to eat and how you can adjust, you know, try to fit those foods, or let's say even modify the foods that you really love into a healthier version to fit it into your macros. Like I just choose to do whole foods, which is just like anything with one ingredient, like sweet potato or peppers or something like that. Like I'm not eating anything that comes in a package right now because of my stomach issues. But yeah, I mean, this is super easy. Like you can literally eat whatever you want as long as it's into your macros.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
beautiful thing.
I think eating foods that are not processed or foods that, have more volume will keep you fuller longer.
Yeah.
Obviously, protein do that too. Like I always tell everyone always asks me. So like, even during my competition, they're like, so when you're finished with your competition, are you going to go back to eating normal? I was like, well, what's normal? Like my normal and your normal are completely different. So if you mean, am I going to eat more of a variety of foods? Yes, probably, but I'm still going to eat healthy. Like I'm not going to go to something that I would never eat before just because now I'm not prepping for my competition,
Yeah.
So I think that was like a big like eye opener for people. Like, oh, like the questions that I would get was kind of funny, and I'm like, well, this is my normal. I always ate like this.
Yeah.
It's just this is a little more strict than what I was eating before, and maybe my numbers are different, but I always ate like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny to hear that.
No, and again, I feel like it comes back to you really building a lifestyle around this, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And that's
definitely.
huge because, like, again, it's funny because, like, we're the same way. Like, and people still make those same comments to us now, like, "Oh, like, when are you gonna stop dieting?" I'm like, "We're not really dieting. We're just eating healthy, and we're just tracking our intake. Like, it's just this is what we do." So it's
That
funny.
is
But even for you being a mom, like, I just want to kind of touch upon this because, like you mentioned, I feel like you're just setting such a great example, for your daughters, which, they might not realize that right now. But at the end of the day, like, it's funny because even during when you were working with me during prep, like, you would send me like little videos and snippets of them, like, either working out with you or helping you meal prep. And I think that one time, I forget who it was, but they were holding you accountable to eat your vegetables that one day. So,
Vivian. Yes. So, I always, when the girls were able to start eating, so around 6 months for both of them, they were able to have solid food. So I never did any jarred baby foods. I never did anything puree. We went straight to solid foods. So from when they were 6 months old, I was giving them whole avocados. I was giving them bananas, protein. They were having steak at 9 months old, like chewing on a piece of steak.
Love it.
Ever since they were little. And now Vivian is the oldest and Victoria is the younger one. But Vivian would always say, like, where's your protein? Or she would say, like, yeah. So she would say, is this on your meal plan, Mom? Like if I would like sneak a piece of, a vegetable from one of their plates, is that on your meal plan? They would definitely keep me accountable. So they're always watching, always, always watching. Like even this morning, I came home from the gym and Victoria, who's the youngest one, gets up from her bed and says, Mom, do you already go to the gym today? I was like, yeah, I already go. Like they know the routine, they know the schedule, and now like I see Vivian is involved in this ninja like warrior class. It's sort of
Yep.
like American Ninja Warriors. And, she will say like, I feel strong, or I ate some protein today at lunch so I can have my energy for my class. And,
That's awesome.
you know, listening, they're watching. And I think like that's always a motivation for me to keep doing what I'm doing, because I always tell them like, you always have to have, you know, we have our healthy foods and we have our fun foods. And if you know, have more of your healthy foods, you're going to feel good. If you have more of your fun foods, you're not always going to feel great. And I never say like, you can't have this or you can't have that. Like there's always a balance, because I didn't always grow up that way. You know, it was like weight and food was always an issue growing up. So I think I don't like, with them being so young, and especially young girls, I want to instill like healthy habits early on. And, you know, sometimes like my husband will give them breakfast, lunch, or dinner if I'm not around. And Vivian will say like, we have to have a protein, a carb, and a fat. And she'll tell them. And I'm like,
I think I found my future assistant coach right there.
right on target. But the other one, she's still working on it.
I love it. I love it. But no, and again, you're not alone. Like, it's funny, like for the other parents that I work with too on the team, like they mention the same stuff. Like whether like their kids see them working out in the living room, will come in and try to like pick up a dumbbell, or like join them in the kitchen and like start asking the questions about like, you know, what they're doing. It's great just because people don't realize that sometimes that like they're always watching. And like what you're doing right now is, again, like they're just more so like a sponge right now. They're taking it all in. So again, I just want to say you're doing a fantastic job with that for sure, setting that incredible example. And then last but not least, and Lauren, I promise I will let you go, but this is huge. And I know this is something that you and I like talked about before too, just because I know this was, I don't want to say it was difficult for you, but when we started the reverse diet, right? And I kind of told you like, hey, you're going to get uncomfortable. I just want to talk about this because I will say like for those that are currently on, you know, on the team and working with us, or just even those that I talk to like in the Facebook group and from the email list. And, you know, when they ask, hey, I'm really struggling with losing weight. And I kind of talk to them like, hey, like, what are you doing right now calorie wise? And they tell me they're eating like, you know, 1,000 to 1,200 calories. They're doing way too much, you know, activity and so forth. And I just want to talk about the diet. But when I tell them, hey, you got to start eating more food, like I said earlier, people just get scared. They're like, that's a terrible idea. Why would I want to eat more? Because I'm going to, you know, gain more weight. But just like I explained to you, and again, I know you understand this better than anybody else, but I just want to walk through like that reverse dieting process. And for those that are watching right now or listening to the podcast, more so what we did with Lauren is we slowly increased her calories over time to really get her hormones and get her metabolism in a much better place after her bikini competition. And again, you went through a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but you went through definitely some uncomfortable times during this time as you gained some body fat. But I just want to talk about that and more so like where your headspace was and also the benefits to this, because what you've been able to do in the gym, Lauren, since we've done this has been just unbelievable. So I just want to kind of, again, just hear your perspective. Because of course, like myself talking about it, I know people are like, well, you're a coach. Like, of course you're going to say these things, but I just would love for you to kind of touch upon this real quick too.
So I will say the first, like coming right off of competition, it was like such a high. And then we were like, oh, we're going to eat, we're going to have some drinks. Like, it's going to be awesome. And next Monday, I was like, oh God, I got to get back in the gym, you know? I think for me, like, I always need something to work towards. So like I needed that next competition in mind to say like, get back on track, you know? But like Matt was saying, you know, we slowly started to increase. And so initially I saw like some weight gain, but I was feeling better. Because I was pretty fatigued, like coming out of show. I was feeling stronger. I had more energy. I was able to get back to like lifting a little bit heavier. And then we had a little bit of bump in the road. I had to have surgery. And that kind of set me back, I think. And then, you know, I was out for what, like 6 weeks, I think.
Out there, so it's like 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. So I kind of took a break. I still was eating healthy, but I like wasn't tracking as much. I couldn't work out. And so that was definitely a mind game for me, because I was like, what? I cannot just sit here. Like, I have to do something. So like I would get outside and walk, but I still wasn't feeling like myself. And then once I got back in the gym, I was like, okay, back to reality. And so I think like as we slowly started to increase my calories, I started to put the weight on, and like, but I like really wasn't paying attention to the scale. Like I was just like, I just want to be able to lift heavier than I was lifting before. And I knew in my head, I was like, this is going to be your building phase. So the goal coming out of show was to get bigger muscles, get stronger, so I'm like, I know I have to eat. So I just like kept telling myself, like, you have to eat, you have to this. But then like for me, I still felt like I'm restricting, and then I'm like going through these cycles of I had a couple binges, and it really was like, you need to get back on track, because the more that you get yourself off track, the more you're going to keep getting yourself off track. So I brought it back together, and I felt like, okay, let's get back to tracking. Let's get back to whole foods. Like, what works for you. And the same thing, like the weight did creep up, but I have been lifting heavier than I ever have in my life. And so like those numbers, honestly, every single week I'm going up in numbers. I'm lifting heavier. My form is still good. I felt like my tempo was good, and like me eating more, to me, I'm like, I'm just fueling myself for these workouts. Like I'm eating healthy. I'm able to lift. I'm having more energy throughout the day for my kids. I'm sleeping better. And so, yes, the weight has come on, and I'm so uncomfortable, but I know, like I was before during my journey to prep for my first competition, I'm like, I know once I start cutting, I'm going to be better and stronger. Like I'm going to have more of a muscular physique, and my goal would be to start prepping for another competition once we get this whole digestion thing under control. Yes, calories, and yes, the weight has come on, but I just feel like it's worth it, because I would never be able to build this muscle without those extra calories,
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is I think a lot of people don't realize that, right? Because everyone's always under the assumption if they want to lose weight, they need to, of course, eat very little and do a lot of activity. But the big thing that we're doing with Lauren right now is we're building her up. So we've had her in a place over the past few months that she's able to build muscle. And, we're really being able to see that with what she's been able to do in the gym. And the amazing thing is we just moved Lauren back into her dieting phase. We're going to be doing a little mini cut up into the summer. And the more muscle you have on your frame and physique, the easier it's going to be to, of course, lose weight, lose body fat, right? Because your body's burning more calories throughout the day. So like Lauren mentioned, yeah, like there's uncomfortable stages to this, but she was able to see the greater picture of like, hey, I'm getting stronger. Hey, I'm building muscle, which takes a lot of time and a lot of effort as what you're able to do in the gym. But ultimately, she's setting herself up for success once again, once we move her back into this mini cut and dieting phase that we just did to really get things, moving back in the right direction. And of course, all that body fat's going to go away again. So there's always a blessing to it for sure. But yeah, Lauren, that's honestly everything I have for you today. Thank you again so much. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I mean, I think I mentioned this to you before, like I've had coaches, I've had trainers, and I've never been this successful with any of them in the past. And so, and this is true to my heart. Like anytime someone like tells me like what they're trying to do or what, I'm like, get yourself a coach. Like I have never been so successful with Taylor and now you than I've ever have in the past. So like I needed you guys to get me to what my goal in my mind was. And if it wasn't for you, I still would be in the same place. Like for sure.
That means the world to you. It's been a blessing being in your corner since day one. And of course, being a part of all these stages over the years. So
yeah,
thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, guys, that's Lauren O'Neill. Like I said, she is one of the nicest people that I know. So if you guys have any questions for her directly when it comes to her journey and just process up until this point, she's very knowledgeable when it comes to, of course, this subject as well, because her and I have been working together for a very long time. And she's always asking me questions, which is awesome, just because she's eager to learn. But seriously, reach out to her. I know she'd be more than happy to help you guys out. But Lauren, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, be sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more amazing episodes just like this. I'll see you in the next one.